All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're getting into the issues that made headlines in 2019. The first one was the cargo being held at the port, and also the SGR standoff a bit, whereby they wanted the containers to be brought in using the SGR and not the truck drivers. That was lifted. The other issue that's coming up is the pending bill. So only 13 counties, and this is also part of the stories on the back page of the Daily Nation, 13 counties have cleared all the pending bills. That's according to Treasury's CS Ukuri Atani. All the other counties have not done that. The government says they've already sent out the 9 billion shillings. We know of traders and small-scale traders who've been auctioned because they took loans to supply to certain counties.
Right.
They have not been paid to date.
So according to CS Fred Matiang'i of Interior, the 9 billion is already out. They've already released it. But get this, Trevor, a week ago still, the National Treasury released 11 billion to 18 counties after they promised to still settle on pending bills. Another 7 billion was released to 12 counties that had settled their pending bills.
Yeah. And now the government has said it will resort to legal means to compel the devolved units,
saying it's unfair,
settle all the pending bills.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mbide, I'll start with you on this one. What sort of impact does this have when you hear that people have money that are being held by counties? The counties are just fighting left, right, and center. Doesn't that then just kill business?
It does. It's a complete disincentive. But I don't think we can only just focus on the government. It's become sort of a cultural trend where you go and provide a service to the private sector. If you're not coming from a corporate, then you have to wait a month or 2 months or 3 months or even a year for payment. So I think in as much as we're focusing on the government, this also focus on the private sector. But there's an unfair element where if I have provided a good and a service and we have agreed on the terms of engagement, then I think the right thing for you to do at a county level is either come and speak to your suppliers and say, either we have an issue with this, or let's vet this, but keep the communication lines open. For you to say that we were not here when this procurement was done and we are not going to pay is completely unfair.
Is it also fair to say that why should we be paying it from previous governments? Because that's the other excuse that is coming.
No, that's not even a valid excuse, because you can't keep saying that the economy of Kenya is built on the bedrock of small enterprise, but then the small enterprise engages with the government, which truly is the largest buyer of anything that you're doing, and then 2, 3, 4 years later, then you're not actually getting anything. So if they're saying that they're going to actually engage a justice system, let's also have people being made palpable. So if you're going to be taken to court, don't be taken to court and then it's, okay, there was a scenario, the fourth estate was there to cover your arrest or you're being summoned by the DCI. But we need to start getting to a point where heads roll, and if the government cannot show us that they can be accountable, if you cannot be able to say this is wrong, then pay for it. So, and if it's something that doesn't stand right with you, then make it right for the next session of payments. But it's very unfair for you to refuse to pay people who've provided goods and services that your own people have verified. And if your own people have not verified it, then let the people who signed off on these documents be held culpable for whatever is happening.
Right. So Wangari, at the end of the day, doesn't this not discourage Kenyans from doing business with government?
Oh, definitely.
Yes,
who wants to do business with government when you've been auctioned, when you've laid off all your staff? I mean, this is a very, and you know, actually this is really ties into many of the problems that we're having in the economy. First of all, my thought around these payments that are coming from the National Treasury to the counties to help them pay the pending bills is not a sustainable way of doing things. There are key rooted systemic issues that are plaguing even national and county governments in terms of payments. So a one-time injection of revenues or money to the counties is not going to resolve this. Counties need to have realistic budgets, and they need to ensure that the procurement practices are above board.
Right.
2, business is definitely, if I was doing business with government and they didn't pay me, access to credit has been low, interest rates have been plaguing, the economy, access to credit for SMEs has already been, it's been a tough environment overall. So working with the counties and not being paid is also compounding the issues.
Would you encourage someone who's doing business with government at this point in time when they've already been frustrated to then take this to court?
Well, where are you going to go with this? You know, how many businesses are going to go into court and jam up the process? I don't even think it's realistic or that it's going to happen is going to really resolve anything.
So just strap your belt and just hang in there for
I think what's just going to happen is people are just going to stop doing business with government, which is a big shame. As was said earlier, government provides a lot of business to the economy. Government provides a lot of money for people to be able to trade and and access liquidity into the market. So with people stopping to do business with government, public services are going to go down severely, and business is also going to have to find some other ways to survive, especially SMEs.
Somehow has this affected your people? Because I know you deal with the Small Traders Association as well. The pending bills, what are they saying? Are they being paid? Are they not being paid?
You see, they have not been paid, and the question which I usually ask is, can you be able to foot the bills of the devolution? Because some of the things we are very unrealistic, because you find that the government is giving money to the government, to the county governments, but we are not paid as traders, and we trade the government. The other thing is that you can't even get financial support from any financial institution, because ideally when you get money you get a loan, you have to, you delay, you default, not based on that you can't be able to pay, but based on you have not been paid by the government. And I think what the government is supposed to do, when you're talking about the incentives of small, medium entrepreneurs, you're supposed to make policies and you're supposed to work in synergy with the county governments to make sure that the SMEs are being paid. There are people who have been auctioned, there are shops which have been closed. Ideally, for example, when you get, let's say, a contract with the county government of Nairobi and you have a shop and you don't have capacity, you go to a financial institution. That means, if, for example, if you get maybe a loan of 20 million shilling, that means that the whole of your shop stock is gone. So if you're not paid, so when you look at that, the government is supposed to be able to engage the county government, that's synergy. But at the end of the day, corruption takes the day.
Right.
Because corruption is the reason why we are not being paid. Because if you don't lubricate the process, from the, from the procurement to the person in the finance, you're not going to be paid. But there are people who are being paid in time because they have been able to lubricate the process.
And that right there's a problem, because then how do you bridge the so-called facilitation fee when it comes to the cost of doing your business? Because that essentially eats into your profit and you can't balance it out. Because there's also interest that comes with it, unless now you're supplying what we call air.
Unless you're supplying it's true, Trevor. And you find some of them, they need an upfront payment. You get what I'm saying? So, for example, if you get, let's say you're supposed to supply something worth 2 million, they're telling you give them upfront of 500,000. So where is your profit? So you find, ideally, it's not logical to do business with the county governments or even in the government, because the process is the people who are there, the system is a systematic problem whereby is already engraved in the system, whereby if you don't lubricate the process, you don't get your money paid. And sometimes you have to bribe your way even to get those contracts. So it's a murky situation.
And I think even just to compound that, if you supplied goods or services to government and you've not been paid and you've taken a loan, your loan accrues interest. When you're being paid, you're not being paid plus the interest you've accrued.
Exactly.
So where are you going to go?
So you're running at a loss either way.
Exactly.
Banks don't care whether
they don't care. So you go down.
The banks have not lent to the government, they lent to you as a business.
So ladies and gentlemen, help me understand this, where the missing link is. Because government is saying, listen, we've released the funds, we've released 9 billion, 11 billion, and 7 billion, and 13 counties have so far been able to pay the pending bills. So they released the money. I know you've mentioned corruption as one of the cases. Here, so between the point where they release the money and it getting to Kenyans, what is happening in between? Why that frustration? Is it the systematic problem, Wangari, you talked about? Because one side the government says, we've released the money, on the other side Kenyans are saying, where's the money? Where's the missing gap here?
But look at, the pending bills are over, I think last year we talked about almost 90 billion. They've released how many? 16, 17 billion?
They released them in tranches of 18, 7, and
this is not making sense. How are you plugging the pending bill gap? You're saying, there's pomp and circumstance around releasing money and saying we've released the money. But if you're releasing only 10%, 15%, then you're not really resolving the problem. And even releasing that money, how is it then being absorbed by who is being paid?
Exactly, that's the question.
Who is being paid?
Reports indicating that.
Exactly, and then also a lot of the people, I think the Office of the Auditor General said 50 billion of these pending bills are legitimate and 30 billion are questionable. And that I think then also goes to the systemic issues that we were talking about. are we using e-procurement practices?
Right.
I've worked out with many counties, and there are a lot of excuses around why they're not using e-procurement, which helps things be a little bit more transparent and above board, and using manual processes. So I do sympathize with some of the counties. They are not able to pay these suppliers because they were not done in a regular fashion.
Right.
So there's this big gap of, what is, they've been I think there are pending bill committees that have been constituted at the county level. So that process of determining what is a good bill, what is a bad bill is a long process, and nobody wants to go to jail.
And speaking of
so
county
people
level,
are very careful about this.
And speaking of county level, at the end of the day, should a county monthly status report be a requirement, be mandatory at the end of it, to sort of fulfill those gaps that Wangari has just painted for us to be there?
Just before I answer that, I think, let me just concur with what Wangari is saying. So you have a government that's releasing 9 billion, 17 billion with pomp and flair. And this is a government that has not been paying bills. The pending bills are not just for this year. There's last year, there's the year before. Like, you can effectively say for the last 5 or so years, there are people who have not been paid. And then again, at a macro level, we're operating already on a deficit. So rather than making this pump and feel like we have released 17 billion, I mean, I wish we could get to the situation where you're saying our budget, which is 3.2 trillion shillings, can be reduced to maybe 2.5 trillion shillings, because either we are enhancing the efficiency of our staff complement, because if you walk into government offices, they're like, there's nothing we're doing. You even hear instances of, somebody went to do a manicure and a pedicure for a government officer in their office, and you're like, there was somebody who was waiting for service, for service to be done, and it wasn't done. You go to City Council of Nairobi, and it's the same everywhere. So I can't say that the government is not doing what it should be doing, but I wish we'd get to the point where this strictness of saying counties pay your bills would be effected to the point of, if you're a staff employee of the government of Kenya, this is the efficiency that we expect of you to justify why we are paying this, so that over time we're actually getting to a point where we're saying at a macro level we're reducing our deficit. In other words, what I'm saying, we can keep saying, let's come up with a county register, how much is owed, how much is spending, etc. But the reality, there's no money. The money is not there. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that at some point. The money is not there. So even for me at a micro household level, I can keep saying, you come to work and let's just keep accumulating. Or I can keep telling my grocer, give me bread and etc. or whatever I need, but there's no money coming in. So what I'll do is now I'll just create a red herring situation where I say it's not my fault, it's the other person's fault.
And let's combine the whole issue of cost that you're talking about and the cost of living and debt. So Kenyans are paying more this year for their monthly utility, food, bills, cost of living data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that our cost of living is skyrocketing. So apart from January, February, when the consumer price index dropped to 4.14 from 4.70 in January, forget the kizungu mingi. The mama mboga in the ground knows that today her money is not as valuable as it used to be, and she's struggling to survive. What should the government be doing right now to ensure that as we head into 2020, our cost of living is at least reasonable?
Trevor, you asked the wrong question. What should the mama mboga be doing?
What can she do? She has no options.
You can't now listen. Between the mama mboga and the government, are you seeing how many people are there?
Isn't the government supposed to make the life easier for the mama
let me tell you, it doesn't work like that. It's up to you to use your wisdom to make your life easier. For one, if you think it's been hard this year, next year it's going to get worse. What happens every time we go through an El Nino season, which is what we're going through now? Food is affected.
So you think this solution should come from the people on the ground?
Hold up. What happens to food? The cost of food is certainly going to go up because there will be scarcity of food next year. So if you're thinking, if you're crying foul as the mama mboga, and it's not only the mama mboga, myself included and everybody else, it's going to get worse. You know when it's going to get worse? We're saying we're dealing with a government that doesn't have sufficient money, a government that has increased the ceiling with regards to the accessibility to debt to 9 trillion, a government that is working with the IMF to review how we are operating at a structural level. In simple words, taxes are going to go up, whether it's through your electricity, whether it's through your water, whether it's through your airtime, whether it's through your groceries, whether it's through your VAT, it's going to go up. So what you need to be doing, you need to bootstrap a bit more and become slightly more innovative. I see a situation where we start going back, to be there in her balcony. Sasa, I need to, I can grow onions. It's silly, but that's the point. You're going back to being subsistent because it's going to get worse.
And you know, when you tell most people to be innovative, they get so frustrated because they're
not innovative
accounting. Supposed to be working for me, not the other way around.
If you keep saying that you're going to keep keep waiting for the government. Our numbers are not in the best state of, not mine, but our accounts don't make sense.
I want to take it
Mine
up from
doesn't
there.
make sense. Mine
Don't make sense, by the way.
Not yours.
Beyond faith, maybe that's why we're very religious, because you need that Sunday faith just to get you through the week. Because you do your numbers, my own numbers don't balance, the government's numbers don't balance. So I can't keep going around and say, oh, serikali's idea.
But can we absolve them from the responsibility
You can't
of
absolve them from the responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
but
to
what
say.
can
The
they
government
do?
cannot be absolved from this responsibility.
We're not living in a vacuum.
Yeah. Exactly.
This has happened for a reason. One, we are borrowing, right?
Yeah.
Who is going to pay back this? Already, I think almost 50% of the revenues we collect, we're paying back the debts.
Yeah.
So where's the space for public investment? Where's the space for invigorating the economy? There's no space there. That's one. Second, the tax bracket. KRA is collecting money from like 10% of the economy. Almost 80% of businesses in Kenya are informal. So those guys are not paying taxes. Those guys are the mamambogas. Unfortunately, those are the ones who are not paying the taxes.
Exactly.
But are still being hit on the other way,
But
like a whiplash.
They're
being
cancelled. Because they always, they pay that 50.
Yeah, but then that is going to the city council, and that is going, we've been hearing a lot of cases of what's been happening in the county governments lately, right?
Yes.
So we double back to corruption.
So it's all tied up together. So the debt is affecting us.
Yeah.
We have high tax regime. Some people are not paying taxes. So the people who are paying taxes, most of the taxes that we collect are through PAYE, PSU1, which are the people who are in formal employment.
That goes to all recurrent
So what KRA is then wants to do is to tax those people more instead of widening the tax bracket.
All right, Samuel?
Yes, we have been having meetings with KRA on increasing the tax base, and because some of these small traders are the hugest consumers of our infrastructure.
Right.
Let me give an example. We have the Boda Boda guys. We have 600,000 Boda Boda registered in Kenya. The 600,000 registered Boda Bodas in Kenya, on average, each Boda Boda guy takes home 1,000 shillings. That's 600 million shillings every day. The 600 million shillings every day, how much are these guys paying to the government? And these people, mind you, when you go to the government hospitals, they have a special wing because of the accidents that they cause. So when you look at all that, number one, the government must be able to increase the tax base innovatively, because Mama Boga down there, they also pay their taxes. When you go to the supermarket, even if you buy a tissue paper, it's 16% VAT, and everything has been taxed.
Yes.
So the government must be able to increase the tax base. Now that's number one. Number two, innovatively. Number two, let's have a candid conversation here. We are living in times where the government cannot be able to foot its bill, period. So what is the next thing that you're supposed to do?
Yes.
You're supposed, number one, to look at the loopholes where that money is going. That's number three. We are looking at county governments which are not accountable. Look at the governmental structures and systems of county governments. As my sister is saying here, we have guys who are not supposed to be employed in the county government offices. Why? Because it's duplication of responsibilities. We have a CEC of environment, you have a director of environment, we have an assistant director of environment, you have an officer of environment.
Why have a CS?
We have a CS of environment. Why are we having all these things? There are institutions in this country and out of the country can be able to make this government, the county governments, lean,
more prudent,
and workable.
Okay, so at the end of the day, Wangari, looking into 2020, there's something that Mbide has said, apart from our Sunday faith that helps us, take us throughout the week. Government still has a few question marks. You look at your own bank account like Trevor, it has question marks. So at the end of it, there's this mantra that we've been singing for the past, especially this year. It is the role of the government. It's not the role of the government to create jobs, but to create a conducive environment for businesses to flourish that create jobs. Are we still going to go with that mantra into 2020?
You know, it's kind of it's an interesting situation, because on the one hand, we are part of the reason that we are borrowing and not even thinking about the loopholes, the leakages with all the money that is coming into the economy. Part of this money is also going into infrastructure building, and we always keep talking about the big four, hospital, agriculture, health, agriculture, manufacturing, and I forget what the last one is. You guys will remind me. So investments take a very long time to start realizing their, realizing the fruits of their investment. Right. So we're going to plug in a lot of money now. We're going to feel the pinch now. But I guess what is being done is that we're investing now so that in the future, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now, we'll start to see that investment. Now, unfortunately, when we start seeing that investment is a big question. Look at the SGR. It's still making losses. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can deny that the SGR is actually going to be beneficial to the economy in the long run. But we do feel the pinch now.
But are Kenyans getting value from these mega projects, such as the SGR at the end of the day? You know, it still comes down to value.
I think there's definitely value. But it's compounded by, leakages. It's compounded by, maybe, for example, the traders, the people who operate the trucks that ply the roads. There are those kind of constraints. But at the end of the day, the key word Bonakaran just said here is innovation. You have to adapt. I'll tell you a quick story. In France, is this place called Grasse that used to process tanneries and process hides. And these hides used to be, they were very popular in France at the time. And when the industry started going low, they transformed the economy to start producing perfumes. And now it's the top perfume location in the world. So you have to adapt. If something is not working, you have to change the industries to then now fit into the new way of doing things. And then that's the place for government. Government should then now provide incentives for people who used to be heavy in the truck industry, transporting cargo from the port.
And that's the conducive environment we
exactly.
talk about.
That's the role of government. Government should not be, should be providing incentives for the changes to happen in the economy as a regulator.
All right. We're running out of time here, but I liked the trajectory that you really started taking for the Mamamboga now. What do they do heading into 2020? What are the most practical things that one should do to at least just survive?
Apart from planting on
in the backyard,
So I'll say two things, the role of Wanjiko and the role of the government. So we keep comparing ourselves to the Asian tigers. South Korea is a name that keeps dropping when we are looking at the comparatives of where they were at independence at the same time as where we were at independence. South Korea works on a phrase that says pali pali, meaning haraka haraka, get it done as quick as yesterday. Kenya, pole pole, ndio mwendo. So what I'm saying for all of us, get away from that mindset of pole pole to pali pali, because what the government is doing is only a reflection of what we do at an individual level. When we are calling out leadership, we should be calling out ourselves. Good leadership entails the fear of God and doing the right thing. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a mamamboga, whether you're a public officer, or whether you're an elected officer. So at a personal level, we need to get to that hustle. China has grown from saving and hustling in terms of entrepreneurship. How can we challenge ourselves not to only have that one source of income in terms of selling my mbogas on the street? Can I do other things? In fact, my challenge to myself and the people I speak to, can you get to a point where you have 8 streams of income? When you have thinking of 8 streams of income, you really don't have the time to be sitting and drinking and complaining about football or politics.
But how realistic is it for you and I to have 8
Technology
streams of income?
is something that has actually given us an opportunity to, I can work from 8 to 5. Right? I finish that. Then instead of going to sit in traffic from 5 to 8 or sit in a bar, I have the time to go and sit on my computer and figure out, if I'm an academic, what consulting work can I give?
Maybe
if I like to bake,
middle class.
If I like to bake, what else can I do? This Mamamboga can even start packing nail polish for her friends between 8 and 10 in the morning.
But I think
let me finish. Why I'm saying, it's okay, you can differ, it's fine. Let me just finish what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying get to 8 levels of income next year, but I'm saying it has to be a cultural change that starts with us at an individual level, where you're getting from mwendo wa pole pole to pali pali. If you need to do something, do it at a very fast level. Then the second element of intervention that I would like to see, whether it's next year or it's in the medium term, when you look at exports versus imports, we're becoming importers of services to other countries. The intervention that I would be keen to see from government is where the government starts to speak to other governments and says, we have a labor force that is young, that is energetic, that is well educated, that is technically savvy. How can we then package that as a service to other countries and then you sell it at a service at a national level, where the government now goes and gets a market and we plug in? And then the final thing that I would like to say with regards to that intervention, these trade routes that have been opened in Africa, the Africa Free Trade Continental Trade Area, which starts operating mid next year, maybe end of next year, 2020, is an opportunity where instead of focusing on importing things only just to be serviced in Kenya, how can we even begin to export handmade Kenyan things into other markets in the region. Ethiopia has ratified that constitution, and it is a new market for us. There are countries in West Africa that have also ratified this new trade, the AFCTA, that could be possible trade routes for us. So it's also an opportunity for us to think about export.
All right, some of your closing remarks as you also tell us about 2020 and perhaps what you foresee for the Importers and Small Traders Association.
Thank you. I like to differ a little bit with my sister here. Let me talk on behalf of Mama Mboga, because these are the people that I represent. Mama Mboga doesn't know anything to do with technology. They don't know anything to do with maybe having 4 or 5.
She knows M-Pesa.
Yeah, she knows M-Pesa. yes, she knows M-Pesa, true. What ideally the government is supposed to do, number one, give these people designated areas of operation, Mama Mboga. Because once you give them designated areas of operation, you can tax them from where they are. Let them even pay taxes through very simplified ways, through USSD codes, very simplified ways. Tell them to pay 20 shillings every day or 50 shillings every day instead of paying 100 shillings cess to the county government that keeps on chasing them up and down.
Right.
So once they are given designated areas of operation, then from there, now we can be able to pay taxes. The government doesn't have innovative ways of getting money from Kenyans. A huge number of Kenyans don't pay taxes. But the moment the government has innovative ways of getting money from their pockets, we can be able to foot our bill without going to borrow money out there. 2020, when you're coming 2020, Importers and Small Traders Association of Kenya stands as an advocacy body to SMEs. And what we are doing is that we are pushing the government to make sure that we are in those decision-making tables, whereby when you're making policies, we are there. You can't make policies in our absentia and implement them in our absentia and think that you're going to have a free day. You can't have a free day, and that's why you have what you are looking like economic sabotage. People on the ground are crying foul. Why? Because you made policies which are not workable, which are not logic.
Right.
Make sure that you come together and let's have that synergy. We talk together, and once we talk together, the implementation of their policies are going to be smooth.
All right, Wangari, as an economist, talk to me about 2020. Are we also bootstrapping? Hopefully working towards 8 streams of income.
I think what I would say is, and part of what Mithe was saying is, I think we don't want to work harder, we want to work smarter. We need to make sure that 8 streams of income may be quite tough for people, but think about how you can innovate, plan, strategize, and innovate based on the context that we're in. I think that's the main message of the day. And not only internally, I talked about innovation when we were talking about the truck drivers, saying how can we plug into the new way of doing things. In 2020, we have Brexit has happened. The US has also pulled out of a lot of trade with Africa. So what are we doing to innovate? Well, we have to look at continental. How can we provide goods and services in the continental Africa? How are we going to provide services now directly to the UK, now that they've pulled out of the EU? Are there additional opportunities there for trade? How is our trade agreements also going to change with the EU? So as we are crying foul here, we also have to look at all the opportunities on the table. If A is not working, look at B. There's an opportunity in B. How can we innovate to access the opportunities that lie therein?
Right. Yeah. All right. That is none other than Wangari Muikia. She's an economist with expertise global consulting. Seated next to her was Samuel Karanja, the CEO of Importers and Small Traders Association, as well as Mbide Mwema. She's an investment analyst with the Infallible Group. And that has been our conversation for Bulls and Bears this Thursday, as we're wrapping up the year, but also having to look forward to 2020. 8 streams of income, Trevor. Those question marks on your bank account. All right. We want to take a quick commercial break, but before that, let's take a look at your feedback, and I'll let you know what's coming up right next before we can go into Chef Ali. Some you say bills like taxes and death are matters of necessity which must be paid. Let the county government own up, pay their bills. Excuses are nails used to build houses of failure. Wow.
Oh, wow. Isaac Mudusi says counties are allocated enough money from Treasury. They even collect business permit parking charges. Why can't they pay their pending bills? We can't understand.
Okay. Junior Mato, good morning to you. You say if SMEs are exempted from some taxes and license fees slashed, I think they can be able to grow and create employment opportunities for the youth.
All right. Gray Marwa says, I agree. However, I don't you think it's prudent for the current governments to vet which bills or debts are genuine? We live in a country where things can be cooked, plus the central government must have a sober discussion with counties and not force them.
All right. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Trevor Mbija will be taking a look at the KCSE 2019 results. More students have qualified for university this year, and cheating cases have dropped significantly, according to CS Professor George Magoha. Those results came out yesterday. Again, congratulations to everyone. And Trevor Mbicho will be having that conversation in a bit. Then after Trevor, we get into Chef Ali with Willis Fabulous.
That's the only part she's looking forward to. See you in a bit.